The white billionaire's daughter had been paralyzed for 3 years. She walked because a barefoot black boy made her rise, and stunned everyone who ever said, "Impossible." They told him he didn't belong. Not in that park. Not in that neighborhood. Not beside the daughter of one of the wealthiest men in Birmingham. But that morning, with the sun bleeding through the Alabama mist, a black boy with duct-taped shoes and a name no one remembered made her walk again. She hadn't moved her legs in 3 years. He had no license, no home, no permission. And yet, in that moment, he did what doctors, billionaires, and systems couldn't. He woke up something that had died in all of us, the belief that healing can come from the margins, from the broken, from the ones we dismiss. This isn't a parable. It's a reckoning. And it didn't start in that park. It started years ago, with one crash, one cover-up, and one boy who refused to disappear. They said it was impossible. Not because of the girl, or the wheelchair she'd been tied to since the crash, not even because of the injury itself, which doctors described in clinical tones: severed nerves, shattered vertebrae, irreparable damage. No. They said it was impossible because of the boy. He didn't look like hope. He didn't sound like he was healing. He looked like trouble, barefoot, brown-skinned, eyes too still for someone so young. And he came from the wrong zip code. No credentials, no family, no future anyone had written down. And yet he stood at the edge of Harrington Park that morning, under the heavy trees of a southern summer, and said, "I can help her walk again." The father, Lucas Whitmore, tech mogul turned recluse, billionaire with a broken home, laughed at first. Not the kind of laugh that warms a room, the type you use when you've run out of tears and all that's left is bitterness. He looked down at his daughter, Sophia, still clutching the same stuffed rabbit she'd held the night her mother died. And then, without knowing why, he gave the boy 1 hour. What followed wasn't medicine. It wasn't science. It was something older, raw, more dangerous. It was a memory. It was a belief. It was a boy kneeling in the grass, drawing patterns with chalk and stone, telling a little girl to close her eyes and remember what standing used to feel like. She listened, and something inside her, a flicker, a tremor, a whisper from her own bones, moved. She whispered, "I feel it. I think I feel it." That was the moment everything changed. But this isn't just a story about a girl walking again. It's not even about the boy, though you'll come to know his name. It's about a country. It's about the things we've buried under profit and pedigree, under systems built to keep the wrong people out and the wrong truths quiet. You see, Amir Davis should have disappeared years ago. His parents died in a crash. Same road, same company, same silence. Lucas's logistics firm paid the settlement, buried the news, and forgot the child. A child who slipped through every safety net because his skin was dark, his address was inconvenient, and his name didn't belong in the hands of lawyers or legacy donors. But Amir didn't disappear. He waited. He watched. And when the moment came, he didn't return for revenge. He returned for something purer. He returned to heal. Now ask yourself, what kind of boy does that? What type of heart survives that kind of loss, only to kneel beside the daughter of the man whose silence cost him everything? That's the part we're not taught to believe in anymore. That's the part that threatens us, because it reminds us that morality isn't earned through wealth or whiteness or the letters after your name. It's chosen, again and again. And what Amir chose that day became a mirror we couldn't look away from. As news of the girl's progress spread, so did the questions. About the company, about the cover-up, about the kind of country we've built, where a barefoot child has to do what an entire system would not. People want miracles, but not like this. Not when they come wrapped in contradiction. Not when they make us reckon with what we ignored. That park became a battleground. Doctors argued, journalists circled, protesters came, some in praise, some in fear. But through it all, Amir stayed quiet. He never asked for a camera, never asked for $1. He only asked Sophia, day after day, "Can you remember what running feels like?" And somehow, she could. So if you're expecting a happy ending, this isn't one of those stories. This is the kind of story that crawls under your skin and won't leave. This is the kind of story that tells the truth. That healing doesn't always look like a hospital. That justice doesn't always wear a robe. That sometimes the person who saves you isn't the one you prayed for. It's the one this country told you to fear. But this country forgets things. Amir Davis didn't, and neither will you. Harrington Park wasn't built for boys like Amir Davis. It had all the signs of suburban pride: manicured lawns, fountains with no algae, polite joggers who waved without making eye contact. Mothers in pastel cardigans pushed strollers past bronze statues of local heroes. There was a jazz trio on weekends, a coffee cart with fair trade beans, and a private security guard whose sunglasses never left his face. And in the middle of all that polished calm walked Amir, barefoot, dark-skinned, wearing a torn hoodie and pants 2 sizes too big. His backpack looked like it had been patched together with hope and duct tape. It wasn't just that he didn't belong. It was that the space had been designed to remind him of it. People noticed. They didn't speak. They adjusted their path. One man whispered something to his wife and steered her toward the opposite sidewalk. A mother pulled her daughter a little closer and locked her car door twice. The security guard radioed in with a voice low and tight, as if danger came with a hoodie and a steady gaze. Amir didn't flinch. He'd walked through worse. He kept his eyes on the bench under the magnolia tree, where Sophia Whitmore sat in her custom wheelchair, her pale hands folded neatly in her lap. Her father, Lucas, was beside her. White shirt, gray slacks, an Apple Watch that buzzed but never got answered. The man looked like someone who was accustomed to boardrooms, not playgrounds. Someone who owned things: stocks, patents, silence. Amir approached slowly. He knew how this would look. A black boy with no shoes, no smile, no name anyone respected, walking up to a billionaire's daughter with scars that medicine couldn't erase. It was a scene meant to raise eyebrows, maybe even alarms. But he didn't stop. Lucas looked up. It was a practiced glance, calculated, restrained, the kind of look white men in power gave when they were being polite to strangers they didn't want to deal with. He sized Amir up in less than a second. Hoodie, skin tone, no parent in sight. A problem. Amir didn't blink. He simply said, "Sir, I can help your daughter walk again." Lucas's eyebrows didn't move, but his jaw tightened. He'd heard a lot of strange things since the accident. He'd written checks to people who claimed to speak to angels or manipulate spinal fluid with crystals. But none of them had been 9 years old, barefoot, or this calm. "I think you're in the wrong place," Lucas said. Amir nodded. "That's what they always say. Before." Before? It was a strange word. Lucas opened his mouth, ready to dismiss the boy with a firm shake of the head and a subtle signal to security. But then he heard a sound he hadn't heard in weeks. Sophia. Her voice, soft, fragile, but certain. "I want to try." Lucas turned. Her eyes were open, clear, not clouded by meds or dulled by exhaustion. For the first time in a long time, they held something else: curiosity, a flicker of will. He looked back at the boy. "What's your name?" "Amir." Lucas hesitated. He felt the tension. The park's rhythm had shifted. Behind him, he could sense the guard watching. Somewhere, a stroller stopped mid-roll. He was about to let a street kid near his daughter. And not just any kid. A black boy, no shoes, no ID, no reason to trust him, but the stillness in his eyes. Lucas exhaled. 1 hour. And just like that, the most unlikely story in that perfect white park began with the most dangerous word in America. Yes. The guard didn't move at first. He stood by the fountain, arms crossed over his chest, pretending to scroll through his phone while his eyes tracked Amir's every step. A quiet message passed through his earpiece, and he nodded once, ready, if needed, to intervene. Because in neighborhoods like Harrington, an hour was already too much grace. Lucas wheeled Sophia toward the back of the park, near a small clearing surrounded by willow trees. Amir followed without a word, his steps light and careful, as if trying not to offend the earth beneath him. He didn't speak, didn't explain. He simply knelt in the grass and began gathering twigs, stones, and leaves. Lucas watched, arms folded tight. He couldn't help it. The boy didn't look like a healer. He looked like one of the kids Lucas used to pass by in his car windows, the ones asking for change at traffic lights, holding signs scribbled with desperation. Lucas had built algorithms to avoid eye contact with kids like Amir. Now he was giving one of them access to his daughter's broken spine. "What exactly are you doing?" he asked, his voice clipped. Amir looked up. "Building a reminder." Lucas frowned. "A reminder of what?" "Walking," Amir said. He placed the stones in a slow spiral, shaping a rough outline of a footpath. With each step, he asked Sophia questions, not about her injury, but about her memory. "Do you remember the sound of your shoes on wood floors?" She blinked. "The way grass tickled your ankles when you ran?" Sophia nodded slowly, unsure. Amir handed her a small black stone, warm from his pocket. "This helps," he said. "Hold it while you remember." Lucas was ready to interrupt, to declare it nonsense, but something stopped him. Sophia was gripping the stone tightly, her eyes closed, her breathing deepening, not like a child pretending. Like someone remembering something lost, not facts, but feeling. "I feel something," she whispered. "Like when I was little on the beach. I could feel sand between my toes." Her fingers twitched. Lucas took a step forward, uncertain whether he should intervene or kneel beside her. For a moment, all the expensive equipment, the MRI scans, the specialists with framed degrees, none of it seemed to matter. This barefoot boy with nothing but stones and questions was doing something they never could. He was reaching her. Not through nerves, but through memory, through belief. The moment was fragile, like glass warming in the sun. But just then, a voice shattered it. "Is everything all right here?" It was Walter Green, neighbor, donor, retired Army colonel, widely respected in Harrington, and unmistakably uncomfortable. He looked from Lucas to Amir, then to Sophia. He wasn't asking about safety. He was asking about appropriateness. Lucas straightened. "We're fine." Walter didn't move. "You sure? A lot of folks are watching." Lucas nodded stiffly. "I said we're fine." Walter lingered. Then, with a final glance at Amir, he turned and walked off, leaving a trail of quiet judgment behind. Amir didn't flinch. He had felt that kind of gaze before, but Sophia opened her eyes and said, "Don't stop." So Amir didn't, and for the rest of the hour, Harrington Park continued to pretend it was peaceful, while under the shade of the willows, something radical was unfolding. A black boy, teaching a white girl how to remember how to walk. Not just through muscles, but through the refusal to forget who you were before the world told you to sit still. Lucas hadn't planned to stay the full hour. He was supposed to nod, indulge the child, let Sophia pretend for a while, then return to his office with a clean conscience and another reminder that fairy tales didn't fix spines. But he stayed. He watched. He studied the way Amir moved, not hurried, not afraid, not even deferential. He moved like someone who had been ignored for so long that it no longer hurt, only hardened. The boy never asked for permission, but never demanded it either. He just showed up. Lucas found that oddly unsettling. Because in another life, in another town, he had seen a boy like that before. It was sophomore year, a small-town high school in Georgia. The gym was packed for a student council debate. Lucas, back then, was all potential. Clean-cut, class president, destined for Stanford. He was polite, likable, and ambitious. And quiet. Too quiet. The other boy, Jamal, was bright. Brilliant, even. He'd come from the wrong side of town, but had earned his way into the debate finals. His arguments were sharp, his vision of the school's future bold. He didn't raise his voice, but he didn't lower his eyes either. Then came the accusation. One of the teachers claimed Jamal had cheated on a test. No hearing, no proof, just a whisper. Within a day, Jamal was disqualified, stripped of his candidacy, transferred out of advanced placement. Lucas had done nothing. He remembered how his stomach turned when Jamal passed him in the hallway, carrying his books in silence. He remembered how the teacher avoided questions, how the principal used words like standards and integrity, and how Lucas, who could have spoken up, could have asked why, had said nothing. He had buried it, until now. Watching Amir kneel beside Sophia with the same quiet certainty, Lucas felt that old shame rise like smoke in his chest. Was this boy another Jamal? Would he, again, stay silent while a child with truth in his bones was ignored because of the color of his skin, the holes in his clothes, the zip code on his record? Sophia stirred in her chair. "Daddy?" Lucas snapped out of the memory. "Yes?" Her eyes were bright, not manic, not confused, bright. "Can he come back tomorrow?" Lucas didn't answer right away. From the corner of his eye, he saw Walter Green still pacing the sidewalk like a watchdog. And he knew what that meant. Neighbors would talk. Articles might come. There'd be whispers about trust, safety, and risk. And yet... Lucas looked at Amir, who had already stood up, brushing grass off his knees. He didn't ask to return. He didn't even look hopeful. He was used to doors closing without warning. But Lucas wasn't the same man who'd walked into that park. Not anymore. He placed his hand gently on Sophia's shoulder. "If you want him back," he said, "he'll be back." Then he looked at Amir. "I'll see you at 9. Amir simply nodded. No smile, no thank you. Just the stillness of someone who had been waiting for the world to finally listen. Lucas didn't sleep that night, because sometimes the past doesn't knock. It kicks in the door. And suddenly, the only way forward is to go back and face the silence you left behind. Sophia was awake before the sun. It wasn't the usual kind of waking, not from pain or habit or the sharp tug of another morning stuck in a body that wouldn't listen. This was something different, lighter, like her breath had changed overnight. She sat up on her own. Not much, just an inch or two, but it was enough to surprise Janet, the housekeeper, who'd come in expecting the usual ritual of lifting, propping, and arranging. "You shouldn't strain, honey," Janet said quickly. Her voice was soft but laced with concern that came from somewhere deeper, somewhere not entirely medical. "I'm not," Sophia answered. "I just wanted to try." Janet paused. Her eyes scanned the girl's posture, then drifted to the black stone still clutched in Sophia's palm. "That boy gave you that?" Sophia nodded. Janet's lips tightened into a line. "Stones don't fix spines, baby." "I know," Sophia said, "but I felt something." Janet didn't respond. She adjusted the blankets in silence, her movements a little sharper than usual. There was nothing cruel in her tone, but there was doubt, a kind of caution that over the years had become her form of love. She didn't want Sophia. She didn't want false hope. She also didn't trust strangers, especially barefoot boys who wandered in from nowhere. Especially black boys. By 9, Amir was back. Same hoodie, same silence. He didn't knock on the grand front door. He waited by the greenhouse as he had the day before, eyes on the morning fog as if measuring its weight. Lucas met him there. He didn't shake his hand, didn't ask questions, just unlocked the door and stood aside. Inside, the air was damp with the smell of soil and sunlight. Potted plants lined the shelves, relics of a time when Sophia's mother had tried to grow tomatoes and lavender and little bursts of life. Now the space felt sacred. Not clean, never clean, but honest. Sophia was already waiting, legs wrapped in braces, hands trembling slightly on the arms of her chair. Amir nodded once. "You ready?" She nodded back. "No mirrors today," he said. "We're going to walk in your mind first." He pulled 2 cushions from the wall and laid them down like stepping stones. Then he reached into his backpack and retrieved a length of colored ribbon, red, worn, frayed at the ends. "Close your eyes." Sophia obeyed. "Where are we?" he asked. She hesitated. "Anywhere you want." "A beach," she said softly. "Tell me what's under your feet." "Warm sand." "Good. Now, try to leave footprints." Her lips parted slightly, her hands twitched, and though nothing moved from the waist down, a shiver passed through her shoulders. "I see them," she whispered. "They're small, but they're mine." Amir smiled, just slightly. "Hold on to that. Every step is a memory. Every nerve is a story." Outside, Janet watched through the fogged glass, her arms crossed. She couldn't explain why the scene unsettled her. There was no danger, no aggression, but something in Amir's presence, his stillness, his focus, felt foreign, not just unfamiliar, confronting. Not because he was a boy, but because he was a boy who wasn't supposed to be leading anything. Not here. Not in this house. And yet, inside the greenhouse, Sophia's head tilted back, her lips curved upward. For the first time in years, she looked like someone becoming, not just surviving. And that terrified Janet more than any pain ever had. By the end of the first week, Sophia could sit unaided for more than 20 minutes. It seemed small, barely worth noting to the outside world. But inside the greenhouse, it was monumental. The shakes had steadied. Her fingers no longer clenched in fear when she tried to shift her weight. There was sweat on her brow now, not from pain, but from effort, from work. Lucas watched it unfold each morning with a strange sense of wonder and dread. He was a man raised in metrics. Progress was something he could graph, explain, and guarantee. But what Amir was doing with Sophia didn't follow any chart. It moved like instinct. It looked like madness. Still, he didn't stop it. But others noticed. On the 8th day, Dr. Charles arrived, unannounced, unsmiling. He stepped out of his black Mercedes with a leather satchel and the air of a man who had been told very little but assumed very much. Janet greeted him at the door, relieved. "Thank God you're here. She's getting ideas." Inside the greenhouse, Amir was helping Sophia balance on her knees over soft foam blocks, her arms stretched forward like wings. She wasn't standing, not yet, but she was reaching, and that was something no one had seen in 3 years. Dr. Charles entered without knocking. "What is going on here?" he asked. His voice echoed off the glass. Lucas turned. "She's responding." "To what?" the doctor snapped. His eyes landed on Amir, who stood quietly, calm as ever. This is what you think qualifies as therapy now?" Sophia lowered herself to the ground, panting but smiling. "I felt my thighs twitch today," she said. "I think something's waking up." Dr. Charles ignored her. He stepped forward, pulled a small flashlight from his coat and shone it into her eyes. He tested reflexes, checked for tension, wrote notes with precise, annoyed strokes. When he finished, he turned to Lucas. "She's inflamed, probably overworked. Her tissue could be irritated. This, Whatever this is, needs to stop. Lucas didn't answer. Sophia did. No. The room fell silent. I'm not fragile, she said. Her voice shook, but she held it. You all talk like I'm made of glass, but I'm not. I just forgot how to feel my own body. Amir reminds me. Dr. Charles raised an eyebrow. He's not certified. He's not broken either, she replied. And neither am I. It was the most she had said to anyone in months. Amir didn't say a word. He didn't need to. Lucas stepped between them. 2 more weeks, he said, voice low. That's the deal. Then we reevaluate. Dr. Charles hesitated. If anything happens to her, I'll take responsibility, Lucas said. But responsibility was too small a word for what he felt now. This wasn't just about Sophia anymore. This was about belief, about what he had been blind to for too long. Amir nodded to Sophia, signaling the session was over. She collapsed back into the cushion, exhausted, radiant. Dr. Charles turned to leave, muttering something about lawsuits and oversight. But just before he stepped out the door, he glanced back, and for a moment, his eyes weren't angry, just confused. As if the world he thought he understood had started shifting beneath his feet. And no one had warned him it could. Lucas knew the call would come. He just didn't think it would come so soon. It was late afternoon when Walter Green appeared at the gate, pressed shirt, cap in hand, and that tight smile Lucas had come to recognize over the years, the smile of someone who wanted to sound reasonable but had already made up his mind. I thought we could talk, Walter said, privately. They walked along the edge of the garden path. The sun was soft, hanging low behind the branches, casting long shadows across the manicured lawn. Lucas knew this script. He'd lived it before, on boards, in meetings, at benefit dinners. But this was different. Walter cleared his throat. Look, it's not just me. Some of the neighbors, they've noticed things. Lucas didn't respond. They've seen the boy, Walter continued. Barefoot, unaccompanied, sitting in your greenhouse, sometimes alone with your daughter. There's concern. There it was, that word, concern, wrapped in civility, dressed in reason, but built on fear. Lucas kept walking. He's helping her. Walter gave a quick, dry laugh. With what? Witchcraft? Lucas turned to face him. She sat up on her own yesterday, did you know that? No harness, no lift, just muscle, just will. That's more than 3 years of therapy ever gave her. Walter's face tightened. Lucas, I'm not trying to disrespect your daughter. I know you've been through hell, but this kid, where is he even from? What do we know about him? Lucas didn't answer, because the truth was complicated. What he did know about the accident, the settlement, the buried report, was something he wasn't ready to speak aloud. Not yet. Walter stepped closer. There are rules, Lucas. Processes. You can't just let some kid from nowhere into your home, into your daughter's head. What if something happens? Lucas's voice dropped. Something already did. Do you think I'm scared of what might happen now? I lost my wife. My daughter was paralyzed. You know what I'm scared of, Walter? That I'll sit here the rest of my life doing nothing because I was too afraid to try something different. Walter stared at him. Then, quietly, he said, People talk. Lucas nodded. Let them. Back inside the greenhouse, Amir sat alone. Sophia had gone to rest. Janet had refused to enter. And Amir stayed. Not because he had to. Because he belonged there, whether the world wanted to admit it or not. Lucas entered, unsure of what to say. But Amir broke the silence first. They won't stop staring, he said softly. even when I'm still. Lucas looked at him. Looked for the first time not as a guest or a question, but as someone who had borne the weight of being seen only through fear-shaped glass. I know, Lucas said. They did that to your parents, too. Amir didn't flinch. He simply placed a hand on the glass wall, fingers spread. You can't fix the whole world, he said. No, Lucas agreed. But I can start with what I broke. And as the sun dipped low, casting amber across the greenhouse floor, Walter stood at the gate, watching. He didn't enter, but something in his stance had changed. Not yet approval, not trust, but doubt. And sometimes, doubt is the first crack in the wall. It happened on a Tuesday. Sophia had been practicing a new movement, a controlled shift from a seated to a kneeling position, braced by Amir's palms and a soft band at her lower waist. They had worked toward this for days, slowly increasing pressure, length, and precision. Every time she held the position for more than 10 seconds, Amir would smile, just slightly. But it was enough. That morning, the greenhouse was humid with summer fog. The windows sweated. The air felt heavy, expectant. And then it happened. She gasped, sharp, like the wind had been knocked from her chest, and fell sideways, her body curling around itself like instinct. Amir caught her before she hit the floor, but her breath came in short, pained bursts. Her hands trembled, her jaw clenched. Lucas ran in at the sound. Sophia was crying, not from fear, but from sheer, white-hot pain. It's my back, she said through gritted teeth. It's burning, like fire. Amir lay her down carefully, sliding a cushion beneath her knees. She needs rest, he said, voice calm but taut. Muscles are waking up. Sometimes pain comes first. But Janet had already seen enough. She burst in, apron still on, fury radiating from her every step. This is it, she snapped. This ends now. Lucas raised a hand. Janet. No, she said, eyes wide. She's screaming. This boy is not trained. He is not certified. He is playing with her body like it's a science fair project. Amir stayed kneeling beside Sophia. He didn't flinch, didn't argue, but his face was pale. He hadn't expected that much pain. Not this soon. Janet turned to Lucas. You're a father. Look at her. Lucas looked. But what he saw wasn't weakness. It was Sophia, even through tears, clutching the black stone in her hand so tight it left an imprint. Please, she whispered, don't send him away. Dr. Charles arrived minutes later, summoned by Janet's frantic call. His expression was severe as he stood in the doorway. What did I say? He barked. I warned you. Her spinal inflammation is reacting. You've pushed her too far. This is reckless. He knelt beside her, pulled out instruments, and checked vitals. There's trauma, he muttered. This could regress her entire healing. But Sophia's eyes opened, fierce. I don't care, she said. Everyone stopped. I know the pain. It's not the same as before. This pain is forward. It's not crushing me. It's waking me up. Amir looked at her, then truly gazed at her, as if seeing not a patient, not a child, but a force being reborn. Dr. Charles stood up. You're not capable of judging that. I am, she said. It's my body, my choice. Lucas spoke next, voice quiet but firm. We made a deal. 2 weeks. One just passed. Dr. Charles's hands trembled slightly as he packed his tools. If she ends up worse. She won't, Sophia said. Janet stood at the door, arms folded, hurt in her eyes, but something else too, fear of letting go. Fear of what it meant to trust something you didn't understand. Sophia looked at all of them. Then, calmly, she said, Let me become more than what happened to me. And in that moment, The girl they had all tried to protect no longer needed protecting. She needed space to hurt, to try, to rise. Lucas couldn't sleep. Sophia's words haunted him. Let me become more than what happened to me. But it wasn't just her voice. It was Amir's silence, his steady eyes, his refusal to beg. That night, Lucas opened the secure archive of Keller Freight Holdings. The file he searched for wasn't labeled with Amir's name, just a cold title, Employee Incident, Settlement Region 3. He scanned the PDF. Date, 3 years ago. Location, Tacoma. Driver, Keller employee. Result, fatalities, 2 adults. 1 minor unconfirmed survivor. Action, internal payout, no press, NDA secured. And at the bottom, a signature. His. Lucas stared at the digital ink, heart pounding. He remembered now. Barely. It had been the week of a billion-dollar merger. Legal had flagged the case. Handled, they'd said. No media exposure. He hadn't asked for names, or ages, or if the minor had anyone left. He had signed it away. Just like that. The boy in his greenhouse, the one teaching his daughter to feel again, was the same child his company had left behind, not with cruelty, but with indifference. Lucas stood slowly. In the reflection of his office glass, he didn't see a billionaire. He saw a man who had built his kingdom on convenience, on silence. And suddenly, the silence felt like the loudest sin of all. Tomorrow, he wouldn't just apologize. He would start to undo. The driver's name was Raymond Locke. Lucas found him working night shifts at a scrapyard outside Spokane. Fired after the accident, Raymond had quietly slipped through the cracks. No charges filed, no rehab, no honest reckoning. Just a severance check and silence. Lucas didn't bring security. He went alone. Raymond recognized him instantly, eyes narrowing. Took you long enough. Lucas didn't argue. You were drunk, he said, voice flat. I was, Raymond replied. But your lawyers? They were worse, made it vanish like it never happened. Lucas nodded. I let them. A long pause. Raymond looked away. The kid? He lives? Lucas's voice cracked. He did. He's teaching my daughter how to move again. Raymond flinched. For once, no excuses. I want to testify, Lucas said. File the real report. Reopen what we buried. Raymond blinked. Why now? Because he deserves a name, and I'm done hiding behind mine. As Lucas drove away, the scrapyard behind him faded into shadow. But something else had begun to rise. A reckoning, not out of revenge, but out of responsibility. The greenhouse was silent. No music, no voices. Only the rustle of wind through cracked panes and the faint hum of summer cicadas outside. Sophia stood at the edge of the cushion path. Amir knelt in front of her, hands at his sides, not offering help, just presence. Lucas stood by the door, breath held. The black stone rested in Sophia's palm. She closed her eyes. Then, her foot moved, just an inch. But it planted. Then the other. Her knees wobbled, her arms lifted slightly for balance. For the first time in 3 years, Sophia stood on her own. No harness, no brace, no command. Only her. One foot trembled forward. The sound of it, a soft shuffle against a worn mat, was louder than thunder. Amir didn't smile. He only whispered, "Breathe." Lucas turned away, choking on emotion too big for pride, too deep for speech. Outside the glass, Walter Green had stopped walking. He stood in the street, cap in hand, watching. No camera, no clapping, just a man, a girl, and a boy. the world tried to forget, defying gravity, one step at a time. 2 weeks later, Lucas stood before the Keller Freight Executive Board, not in a suit, not behind a podium, but holding a single piece of paper, not a report, a draft. The Davis Healing Fund, he said. Not a charity, a responsibility. A silence followed, then murmurs, then resistance. It sets a precedent, one board member muttered. It's an admission of guilt, said another. Lucas looked them all in the eye. It's the truth. And for the first time in decades, truth mattered more to him than profit. Outside that room, change had already begun. Sophia no longer used the wheelchair, except on long walks. She now helped Amir train younger children at the neighborhood rec center, a space Lucas converted from an abandoned warehouse. No ribbon cutting, no press, just real work. Dr. Charles returned, too. Humbled, curious. No longer prescribing from above, but learning beside Amir, integrating narrative memory into therapy. He didn't admit he was wrong, but his silence had shifted. Even Janet, once guarded and rigid, sat quietly in a therapy session, handing Sophia a towel and whispering, "I never thought I'd see the day." To which Sophia answered, "Neither did I, but here we are." And outside the center, Walter Green came every Wednesday, to volunteer, not to lead, but to learn. The day Amir left, no one said goodbye. Not because they didn't care, because they all knew it wasn't an ending. He packed the same worn backpack, the stone now resting inside Sophia's drawer. She didn't cry. She stood beside him, without braces or a chair. Her hand rested on his shoulder, not to balance, but to bless. "You'll help someone else now," she said. He nodded. That's what healed people do. Lucas watched from the porch, arms folded. "Where will you go?" Amir shrugged. "Where I'm needed." Then, almost as an afterthought, he added, "I heard about a boy in Georgia. The legs are still there. Hope isn't." Sophia smiled. "Tell him I said it starts with memory." Amir left before breakfast. No fanfare, no speech, just a breeze through the trees, a boy in old sneakers, and the sound of gravel shifting under each steady step. Months later, the center had a new name etched into the stone wall, the Davis Center for Restorative Movement and Memory. No slogan, no brand, just a truth. Healing doesn't always come in a white coat, that sometimes broken boys carry the medicine the world forgets, and that the smallest step forward, taken with faith, can echo for generations, even in silence. Especially then. Some stories don't end when the credits roll. They linger, in the quiet, in the questions, and in the small, trembling moments when we realize we could have done more. This is not just about a girl who walked. It's about a world that told her she couldn't. It's about a barefoot boy society tried to erase, who became the answer no degree could offer. It's about fathers who carry guilt in polished silence, doctors who forget that healing isn't always clinical, communities that claim to be concerned when what they truly are afraid. But mostly, it's about us, what we choose to see, what we choose to ignore, and whether we dare to change after being shown the truth. If this story touched something in you, don't let that feeling fade. Leave a comment. Tell us where it landed. Tell us the moment that stopped your breath or broke your heart open. Share this video with someone who still believes in the old systems, or someone who dares to dream of a new one. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our channel for upcoming video. See you in the next video.